Yeah, that's really cool. Any of these that have movement or dynamic changing, I'm loving. Hi, I'm Don Bodan from SampleLibraryReview.com. Today we're going to be checking out the Big Bang Orchestra Brass Packs Izar, Jupiter, and Copernicus by Vienna Symphonic Library. Vienna Symphonic Library has released Big Bang Orchestra brass packs, including Hercules, which I did a first look video of about a week ago, and Izar, Jupiter, and Copernicus, rounding out the brass instruments. Now, what's exciting about these is they're all recorded on the Syncron Stage, which sounds fantastic. They do include a very similar and extensive articulation range, including legatos, longs, shorts, glissandos, swells, and other dynamic layers with 5 velocity layers. Exciting with these velocity layers is it goes from pianissimo to fortissimo, and that's an extra fortissimo layer that you can trigger on and off for that extremely brassy sound. Now there's multiple mic positions for additional close mic positions for these instruments. Big Bang Jupiter is downloading at 6.37 gigabytes. It's an ensemble French horn library recorded from 6 French horns, as we mentioned, on the Syncron Stage. This normally sells for €95. Big Bang Orchestra Izar is their low brass clusters library, downloading at 3.6 gigabytes. It's recorded from 4 bass trombones, 1 bass tuba, 1 contra bass tuba, and recorded on the Syncron Stage. Normally sells for €85. And last but not least, Big Bang Orchestra Copernicus, downloading at 5 gigabytes. This is the ensemble trumpet library, recorded from 4 trumpets on the Syncron Stage, and this normally sells for €95. Just a note here that all of these libraries in the Big Bang series do require the Vienna key or a USB-E licenser by Steinberg. In this video, we're going to flip through the articulations, listen to what the instrument sounds like right out of the box, and get a feel for what some of the strengths are and who this line of instruments is for. Alright, I have got all of these Big Bang brass packs open. We're going to go through them, each of the articulations, get a feel for what everything sounds like. We're going to start off with the Jupiter, and this is the French horn. Got a long articulation, sustains, softs, marcatos, nice and bold, nice expressive swell. And then we've got short notes with a bold. And as you can see, we've got the same tree key switching that the Syncron player has kind of gotten known for. I really love the way they've done this. Short notes on one, long notes with additional key switch, and it continues on. I do have the velocity effects crossfade, so there's a velocity on my mod wheel that is changing my dynamic layer. This is a way I prefer to perform when I'm tracking stuff in. I really like to use that so that I can control an exact dynamic layer. Yeah, I like the splattiness of these, and I really like the sound, which we can play around a little bit. Let's listen to some different mixer presets. we're in the classic room. Let's go to wide room. And let's go to the classic Decca. And a wide Decca. And my favorite, the wide surround to stereo. Alright, I'm going to go back to the classic room so we can check out the legatos. And a soft legato. And I can see why they call it soft legato, but I think of this as a warm legato because you don't get the brassiness, you just get the warmth of the horn. And then a marcato legato. Now, if you saw my Hercules, that's the low brass, Big Bang Orchestra brass pack, one of my critiques is the sensitivity in crossfading here between the layers. It takes a little while to find the right one. There's 5 layers right now. So if I just go to my regular legato, and my critique there was it doesn't feel smooth, it doesn't feel intuitive, it feels a little jumpy, and it's one of those things I think I need to program in or get used to playing, so that same critique I'm feeling with this particular instrument as well. Let's move on to the dynamics. We'll just listen to a couple of these. Now, if you saw the Hercules review, I'm going to give this the same pro here, is that the consistency and wide range of articulations makes this an excellent starter pack for horns, and I'll stand by that. So flutter tongue with half-tone trills and whole-tone trills, and then fast repetitions. These are set aside as recorded at 120, 140, and 160. Now, let's go to that little experiment. They've got a stretch function here, which will let me tie it to my DAW, which, as you could see, is at 100 BPM. I'm going to take my DAW down to 80, 78. And I'm going to take it to 128. Okay, sounds nice. And now I'm going to play multiple notes. and it's cutting up on me. And this is the same kind of issue I was having with the stretch functionality inside the Syncron player for the Hercules sample set. So same critique. I will say it's really nice. It functions well with one note. Once I start to stack notes, it kind of blows up my CPU. And I'm not sure if there's some performance settings or something I could do other than breaking it out into multiple tracks to get chordal playing. And just a note here, it's not a Divisi instrument, meaning that when I play one note, I'm getting all of those horns. So if I play two notes, I'm getting double the amount. So I think this is 6 horns, right? So 6 to 12 players automatically. So it's not breaking it out into one player playing one note, and 2 players playing another. And there's a rips articulation set. All right, next we're going to dive into Izar. And this is the clusters instrument. And this is really interesting, the way that they've delivered this. I have to say, I actually love the way they've done this. There's several patches here, 4 total. There's low brass clusters with just a velocity crossfade layer, which you could see is tied to the mod wheel. So we got the ability to just play the clusters with different dynamic layers controlled by the velocity. And we've got a series of articulations, which, as you can see, almost mimic and match the other instruments, with the exception of that legato. Now, it's great. It's great that you got all these different kind of sounds for clusters. Because you just cannot do those kind of things with multi-sampled instruments. But the reason Izar is such an exciting instrument, in my humble opinion, is because they've created patches that will let you crossfade the Hercules Izar mapped to CC1. It's fading between Hercules low brass sample articulation sets and Izar low brass cluster articulation sets. So this can come in really handy. You can do legato stuff even with it. Your short notes. The only thing I think you need to be aware of is, because you're crossfading, you need to be pretty exact so you don't catch a tail of a cluster before you actually get to your next downbeat, which I think you can hear. But I really love this functionality that they built into this. Let's listen to some clusters, and I'm going to move back and forth between Hercules and Izar clusters. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. You could play off of the expressive dynamic articulations, kind of making Izar, the clusters, slowly go into tune, in tune, as the diminuendo happens. So some pretty neat effects there. Yeah, that's really cool. Any of these that have movement or dynamic changing, I'm loving what they do. Being able to crossfade between these two makes this absolute standout for the collection. Yeah, Izar, I'm loving it. Let's move on to our next brass pack, and this is the trumpets with Kopernikus. Again, you'll see a very similar setup for articulations, bold and agile shorts. And this would be a good place for us to listen to some mic mixes as well. Here's the wide room. And you get that little bit of a splat, a little grace note splat at the beginning of your really hard articulation velocities. Classic Decca. And my favorite, the wide surround. All right, let's go back to the classic room and listen to some more of these articulations. Here's the sustains. And again, I'm cross-fading here with my mod wheel tied to MIDI CC1. And I really do like the sound of these trumpets in this room. And marcatos. And legato. A soft. And I do have to say there's kind of two thoughts about sample libraries. One is that you want it to be completely sanitized, perfectly in pitch, and the other one is to leave in the natural human nature. And that is one thing I do like about Kopernikus here. You do hear those trumpets tuning up to each other. You hear a little bit of splat on some of those notes, and like I said, those hard velocities, you hear that articulation kind of have a little bit of a splat grace note. Let's go to these dynamics and listen to a few. Very nice. And last but not least, our fast repetitions. I think these probably one of the ones I will use the most as far as the fast repetition patches, seeing as how the trumpet, that kind of orchestration lends itself to some excitement. And there are release notes. If we go in, we've got our stretching on, and it's set to 120. So it's syncing to my da tempo. (146). Now again, you wouldn't do that with 146. You just go to this 140 and let it sync to your DAW tempo of 146, because you want to get to the closest possible version of the performance. Okay, here's some clicking and some cutting out, and my CPU is not happy. So once again, same critique I'm having with the Syncron Player's stretch function. Multiple notes. Of course, you're doubling. There's no divisi. However, it's choking up my CPU. Yeah, wow. Overall, I'm really loving the sound of these libraries, and I have to say the surprise topping on our Vienna Syncron Big Bang Orchestra brass pack is Izar, with these Hercules to Izar clusters and the ability to crossfade between these two. This makes it such a unique addition to my scoring palette, the ability to have something with a little bit of aleatoric nature, a full set of articulations mirrored exactly to my low brass of Hercules. I think this is the standout. Critiques I've mentioned along the way. You know what I think about the stretch functionality inside the player and how it kind of is choking a little bit on me. The other critique I think I would have to say is with the Jupiter here. And the reason I have a critique with it, horns are so important, and I love the sound of these horns in this room, but I feel like I could have used a little bit more human nature in the legatos, some lipping in some of the performances between the notes. And it could just be the nature of how the players performed so cleanly, which is totally fine. I just love, personally, my French horns to have lots of character for my lead lines. Now, I think this collection with Hercules is going to be a great addition to anybody who's already using the Big Bang Orchestras who is looking for that magical starter edition of a multiple ensembles clustered together with the same room, because they all have that same great sound with those mixing presets. The Syncron Stage just sounds lovely, and they've captured it wonderfully. I'd love to hear what you think about the brass packs here or the Big Bang Orchestra in general. Have you picked any of these up? Is there anything holding you back? Some people mentioned that they don't appreciate or like the USB dongle or the Steinberg e-licenser. Please let me know. I always want to get some feedback as to what you're thinking about the instruments, the libraries, the sounds, and if you would be using or picking these up. I'll include a link over to the Big Bang Orchestra on the Vienna page in the description below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Always love your support. Be sure to head over to samplelibraryreview.com for the latest news, reviews, and our weekly deals page.